Hey guys, I've been playing a ton of Lash recently and I've gotten a lot of questions about my build, why do I go the build that I go, and what do I think about Majestic Leap or other builds on Lash. So today I wanted to do a little bit of an updated version as well as a demo analysis from myself to tell you guys how I play this Lash build and why I've made the changes that I've made. So first of all, the build that I'm going to be using in this video is called Mobalytics, Deathy's Brawling Lash. So all of these items are updated as of, like I think yesterday is when I made the last changes. So I'll go over the items a little bit in game that I go. But yeah, feel free to search Deathy's Brawling Lash and there's going to be a link to the Mobalytics version of the build in the description below. Enjoy. Alright, so this footage was taken from a recent scrim. Here are the players in the server if you guys are curious or interested. So you guys can take a look at that. And in this game, I start in a solo lane. So I would say one thing about that is that usually Lash is going to be better in duo lanes, but this game we felt as though we wanted me to put me in a solo lane. I usually am better in solo lanes, so this is just like a personal preference. And here there's a bit of an engagement. I definitely like overextended a little bit against the Mirage, but it's not that big a deal. And one thing I want to make clear with Lash is the most important thing about laning with Lash is using your flog as often as you can just to like out sustain your opponent. So basically you want to be trading a decent amount with Lash, not too much, and usually you want to prioritize buying gun items with Lash because that's how you're going to get kills early. Your gun is actually very, very good, and so if you just get a couple gun items, you can get early kills, as you might be able to see later into the replay. First item that I buy in this lane is Restorative Shot. The reason for that is because I was half health, I was a little bit hurt, and therefore I just wanted something that would give me a little bit of sustain in order to not drop too hurt. As you can see, I'm taking quite a bit of damage in this lane. Some of that is due to the way that I'm playing. Like, I'm definitely making myself a little bit too open to damage, but since the Mirage is taking a similar amount of damage and I'm Lash, I have Flog and I have Restorative Shot, so I have quite a bit of sustain, so it's not the end of the world even if I take a little bit of damage. As you can see, my Flog is going to be off cooldown soon, and there I could have arguably maybe went for the Flog, but I didn't want to force it. But just look to use your Flog as soon as it's off cooldown. I go Headshot Booster next. This is very standard. I would say usually I would go Headshot Booster first if I had a better start to the lane. So if I wasn't hurt, I would have just gone Headshot Booster right away. This gives you like a decent burst of damage and harass, and it's just very nice. As you can see, like any chance that I'm getting, I'm shooting him. 130 damage there might not seem like much, but that definitely adds up, and that's what makes you able to get a kill later. So I see he's half. I try to go aggressive on him. He uses Tornado here, but I still get a ton of damage on him. And now he kind of has to back up, and meanwhile I'm kind of chilling. And a lot of that is due to the regen that I got with Restorative Shot as well as the Flog. I see he's using Healing Right, so I'm going to try to dive him and see if I can cancel it. I actually missed my shot here, which was a bit unfortunate. I do still manage to cancel the Healing Right, so this is actually a really big deal. Unfortunately here I do get ganked by the pocket, so my teammate calls it a little bit late, but the pocket is not able to get me, so I just kind of back up. And in your pubs this might happen. This probably won't happen as often, but do keep an eye out. If you're winning a lane hard, like, people are going to look to gank you because you're always playing on their side, and so you just have to kind of watch out for that. And now he's back to full health, I believe, probably because the pocket used Healing Right on him. Yeah, so he actually got like a significant amount of help there where he got Healing Righted by one of his teammates. I highly doubt that this happens in your games most of the time. So this is like an even harder showcase of what the average lane might be. Pretty much once you have these three items, you've got a couple options on Lash. I chose to go Extra Charge here. Extra Charge just allows me to have 2 grapple charges, and I find that that's easiest when I want to be like active or just get a kill in lane. You could also go Mystic Burst. It gives you a little bit of extra damage for your kill potential. I just like Extra Charge sometimes depending on the situation. So right after Extra Charge, I do end up going Mystic Burst. The reason for that is because I'm feeling like I'm going to be active in my own lane. And here the Mirage goes on me, I'm able to get the ult off. So one thing about Lash is like the moment people go aggressive and they try to get a play on you, you can usually always kill them with your ultimate. So his mistake there was just kind of going aggressive on my side of the bridge, which means that it's a guaranteed catch with my ultimate. And if I catch him on my side of the bridge with the ultimate, then like 99% of the time he's dead, right? Here the person is dead, so we're going to look to pressure the tower. My teammate came over, and so we should be able to get this tower. Got Blink on the McGinnis doing some decent damage. And even though the pocket comes here, I'm not too afraid of fighting him because I know we've got kind of numbers here. And I also know that I'm pretty strong, right? I've got 4k net worth at the moment, and so we're not going to let them just defend this tower for free. Here I'm really like just focused on getting the objective, and this is important for Lash and for a lot of characters, because once this tower is dead, I'm a lot more free to do what I want to do, which is kind of like go around the map and go for kills. So here I kind of mess up. I try to go for more, and they actually bring out the 7 as well. So that was a huge mistake by me. As soon as I got the tower, I shouldn't have gotten greedy. I should have just left. But you know that sometimes as Lash you want to go more, and there that was a mistake. The teammates all rotated, so I wasn't able to get much more. Once your lane is basically done, you want to go for sprint boots in order to move around the map. So here I see there's a fight happening in another lane. Since I just died, I have the speed zip to show up to that fight. So I would highly recommend as Lash that you try to get active. On the other hand, you don't want to necessarily forget about your lane too much. So here I got active, but we are going to lose my tower for that. So if you look at the pocket here, he's just shooting the tower. None of my teammates can defend it. So maybe a bit of a mistake because you don't want to give them that tower. However, the compromise that we're making is I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose my tower, so let's try to get another tower. And here we actually take a fight, which ends up being a bit of a skirmish. I forget if we win. It looks like we're losing this one. So we probably forced it too hard on this specific tower. And I would say that generally the mistake that I made is after that good engagement, I should have just kind of went back towards my side of the map. We had 4 people in a lane, so we were like not being very efficient with souls, and we just forced that tower a little bit too hard when they, we weren't that far ahead, so it's not like we could just force the fight and win it. So my next item is usually slowing hex. I don't get the green items super early. The reason for that is my first items in my mind as Lash are items that allow me to get active and to kill. So I go slowing hex and I go sprint boots and I go mystic shot because these items allow me to kill. Slowing hex gives you 1 meter per second of sprint speed, and sprint boots also gives you 2 meters. So this play here, I think, is the type of play you want to be looking to make as Lash, is getting on the rooftops behind enemies and seeing if you can gank them. So here it actually doesn't work out. I want to talk about why it didn't work out. And it's just that the way that the Infernus was moving is just very, very strange. Like, he actually dashed towards his own side. I don't think he had any idea that I was there. I think it was a good idea, but unfortunately the way that Tankman and the Infernus moved just made it so I wasn't able to get the gank. So bit of an unfortunate situation. However, we're still going to get this tower. Overall, in terms of macro, it's not great. Actually, I'm not even sure if we get this tower because there's a bunch of people that show up here. So we've got like a 4v2 here, so as soon as I recognize that, I'm just looking to leave. For some reason, there's a warden here. I'm not really sure what this warden's doing, I'm not gonna lie. I do end up killing him. That was very strange from him. So we actually do end up trading, despite the fact that they brought 4 people over. And here, I knew that they had a lot of people, so I should have just ran away and gave up the tower. But I was a little bit slow with my approach, and now the Mirage is gonna dive me, as well as the Paradox. And here I'm just dead. So while we're going to have a little bit more time to talk, because I'm going to go fix waves for a little bit, I want to talk about the idea behind the Lash build. So my next items are mostly green items like healing boosters, spirit armor, and then I'm probably going to go, bullet armor, some other tankiness items. So the idea with this Lash build is, I've seen some people go the Majestic Leap Lash build. I know that Chasm has been doing that, for example. I've seen it in pubs. The thing with the Majestic Leap Lash build is that it's good to one-shot people with your first ability, with your ground strike, but it's not very consistent, and it's just like not that good at doing like prolonged fights, right? This Lash build that I'm playing revolves around being in fights for a long time, sustaining through your flog. So the skill build is I just max my flog first. I don't put any points into anything else before flog is maxed. And the reason for that is because flog gives you so much sustain and so much healing early on. As you can see, I'm doing 200 damage, and with healing booster I heal for 100% of the damage dealt to heroes. Now this means if I just touch like 2 or 3 heroes, I'm healing for 400 to 600 health instantly early on. To give you an idea, that's like as much as a full restorative locket that I'm healing, right? So you basically have restorative locket with full charges on a 12-second cooldown, as long as you're hitting like 2 people with your flog. And also Quicksilver reload actually gives you extra damage on your flog here, 65 damage, and this also applies to the healing. So I get 220 damage, sure, but when Quicksilver reload procs, I get a total of 285 damage, so plus 65. So there I got like 270 probably because that creep has some spirit resist. But yeah, so it's a lot of damage and it's a lot of healing, and that's kind of the idea behind the Slash build. And you want to be active early, but I was a little bit too active early. Ideally, your power spike is when you have your armors and you have improved burst. As far as your damage sources on the Slash build, realistically, you're doing a bit of both. It is spirit focused more than it is gun focused, but you are getting gun items in order to do some gun damage. The gun items are also just mixed in with the fact that Lash's gun is very good, and there are just some gun items that are really good. For example, Headhunter is just like really good value, and you're already buying Headshot Booster, so it just fits into your rotation pretty nicely. So you can see I had a flex slot available. When you have a flex slot, you have a couple options. This game I feel like I'm doing a decent amount of damage, and so I went Bullet Resist Shredder in order to just get a little bit of extra damage. And it's pretty good. It gives you some bullet resist, it gives you some health, and on top of that, you're always doing spirit damage as Lash. You have a lot of ways to do the spirit damage. And since armors are so prevalent, having shred is like important, which makes just Bullet Resist Shredder just a very good item in general, not just on Lash, but on a lot of characters that can apply it consistently. As far as farming with Lash, as you can see here in this clip, you can farm the tier 3 camps. It is a little bit painful though. Like, you're not super strong at farming them, especially like this is 13 minutes into the game, so it's not like I'm like super farmed. But you definitely don't farm them nearly as fast as a Wraith or an Infernus or, you know, a McGinnis. So there's a bunch, even Ivy. I do back up. I don't end up finishing it. The reason for that is I see the Warden like walking forward, and I don't want to risk dropping my 500 bag just to get one more of the creeps. In the mid game, Lash is really good at moving around the map. He's one of the few heroes that has a base sprint speed. So even with just like sprint boots and slowing hex, the sprint speed is actually really fast. And he also clears waves super quickly. So especially when you have Quicksilver Reload and Max Flog, like Flog pretty much one-shots waves. As you'll see right here, actually in this wave I don't do it because there's someone there. So one thing, just a quick little tip is, if someone is nearby, make sure that you go for the denies. So here I do end up flogging the wave. As you can see, it pretty much one-shot the creeps, and I don't know if anybody else is nearby anymore, so I'm just gonna like go aggressive, clear this creep wave. And this is part of what makes Lash so good, is the fact that he's very mobile. He's very good at dealing with waves. So here I've cleared the wave. I can really quickly go back to my team, or I can keep going even further, right? So I see the mirages here. I'm like, okay, I can probably kill this guy. I kind of made a bit of a mistake there by not using slowing hex on him. But I do think that I can probably still kill him. Lash has really good solo kill potential with this build. Just the amount of damage you do with Flog is really high. Now you might be like, why didn't you grab this bag? Well, you know, in these games, people tend to be pretty coordinated. As you can see here, there's a Pocket and Paradox that just kind of appear out of nowhere. Now, in this situation, I do believe I die either way. Although I guess we'll see, but... Oh, wait, I parry him? Okay, I'm still dead. So yeah, the fact that I die there is just like, if I grabbed the bag, I would have been ultra dead. So, you know, it was just like a little greedy. Either way, I ended up dying, so it didn't matter, but you don't want to risk it for just a little bag. So my next item is actually Headhunter. Now, I do want to say that you could go Improved Burst instead of Headhunter. They're both good in different situations. Headhunter does give you like some nice healing, as well as just like nice stats in general. As you'll see here, like with Headhunter, you get basically a huge burst of damage. That's just insane. This Warden unfortunately had Metal Skin, and so I'm trying to kill him, but you know, with Metal Skin, it's just really hard for me to finish him off. He will end up dying, but he did get the Walker in the process, so just good itemization from him in the sense that I wasn't able to deal with him. One thing I want to mention on Lash is, like, despite your character being active, you don't necessarily want to show up to every single fight. So it's important to still get your own farm and pressure your own waves. So for example, here, I'm going to just like keep going on this wave. I think the Mirage shows up, and I do think that I go on him because I'm able to like kill him pretty easily. So especially when you're ahead on Lash, like it's definitely okay to like fight for the solo kills and things like that. Especially when the Mirage is 13k, I have 20k, so I know that I can pretty much just solo kill him, and that creates a lot of space for my team. So sometimes playing this game, fighting is not necessarily about showing up where your team is, but it's about creating your own fights that are favorable for you. So if you know people are going to go for waves, it's okay to just hide on roofs, wait for them to go for the wave, and when they do, you just jump on top of them, use all your abilities, and that way you create a fight that's not only favorable for you, but also helps your team, because after you get that kill, chances are the enemy team will respond to you, and then you'll have not only gotten your kill, but created space for your team. So now that I've had my other core items, I go Improved Burst and Warpstone. Improved Burst is really just for the damage. It's just a lot of damage. And Warpstone gives you some damage, it gives you some resist, it gives you spirit power, and it gives you obviously the active, which is really good. So it's just a lot of good stats in general. And you know, everything about Warpstone is just good on Lash. You're never unhappy having Warpstone. Unfortunately here I do end up getting 7 stun and then just getting gone on by a bunch of people, and so it was my mistake. I got swapped. I shouldn't have gotten swapped, and I do end up dying for it. So Paradox is a pretty hard counter to Lash. Well, it's not like a super hard counter, but it definitely counters Lash because of the swap. Especially when Lash tries to ult, it's really hard to get an ultimate off with Lash. So one thing I want to talk about is just the importance of like making sure that your waves are managed. So waves are kind of like, I guess you could compare them to like your finances in real life, right? You need to get your finances in order before you can do other things. So if you can't pay your bills, then it's going to be hard to like go out and have some fun. And the same thing can be said with creep waves in Deadlock, which is if your creep waves are not managed, meaning that they're not like dealt with or pushed, then you're not going to be able to go out there, make some plays, and kill people basically. So there's one particular interaction I want to talk about, which is Warpstone and Paradox. So Paradox being a very strong hero at picking people, the combo is usually Carbine, which basically stuns you or stops you in time, into swap, and it's a guaranteed swap every time. There is, however, one counter to this, which is Warpstone. So you'll see in this clip, I'm going to get Carbined, and then I'm going to Warpstone as soon as I get Carbined, which makes her miss the swap. So you're about to see it here. So you see, I got Carbined, I Warpstone, and then she missed the swap. Now, she could have still hit the swap, but if you Warpstone right after getting Carbined, the swap is no longer guaranteed. And most Paradoxes are just going to Carbine and then swap right away at the same crosshair position. So if you're against Paradox and you're always getting swap, buy Warpstone and make sure you save your Warpstone for when you get Carbined, and then use it as soon as you're like stopped in time, because you can actually still use the items while this is happening. Ethereal Shift also works the same way. So if you get Carbined, you can still Ethereal Shift. So some things to keep in mind if you're having troubles getting swapped. Now, what should your first 6200 item be? This depends on a lot of different factors and, game states. There's a lot of items that are good. Diviner's Kevlar can be good if you want to just like rely on your ultimate a little bit more. Soul Rebirth is great if you just, want to have a second life. Let's say you're dying to curses or swaps. And then there's also Mystic Reverb, which is great if you want more damage, etc. This game, I actually opted for Colossus, and I've actually been loving this item. We're in a very resistance heavy meta, and Colossus is just like so much value because it gives you 600 bonus health as well as 20% base health. So you're essentially getting probably like 800 health realistically from this item, like 700 to 800 health because of the base health component. And then on top of that, it has an active which lasts 7 seconds, which gives you 40% spirit resist, 40% bullet resist, and 35% movement slow to enemies nearby. On top of that, you get weapon damage and melee damage, which is kind of like icing on top of the cake. The reason I want this item is because with this Lash playstyle, very often you're going to be like in the fight and you're just going to be tanking a lot of damage and healing with Flog. So you already have the healing, so if you can just reduce a lot of the damage you're taking, you can feel quite literally like unkillable or almost immortal, and you guys are going to see that in some clips later in the game. I also want to talk about the importance of buffs. So just now I picked up a survival buff on the bridge. That gives you an extra 400 health. And on top of Colossus now I have 3200 health. And you guys are going to see here, I'm going to get gone on, but I'm just like so hard to kill. I pop my Colossus here, they go on me, and I'm like not even really taking damage. Like I'm staying around 2000 health. Granted, they didn't use that much on me there, but it's just like I've become so hard to kill partly because of the survival buff. And the survival buff also gives percentage health regen, and so I'm just healing a ton on top of all the other stuff that's happening. In this fight, once again, it's just a little bit of a brawly fight, right? So as long as things are happening, I'm staying in there. I'm full health because of the buff, right? I'm just regenerating my health. As you can see, like my health keeps going up, and here I can just like not be afraid and just kind of walk up, and I'm taking a very, very small amount of damage because I just have my resistances are so high.
I'm about to ruin the day. I can do this all day.
Yeah, I can even dive the walker, pop Colossus, and it's actually totally fine. So here, this is a bit of a funny moment. We're sieging the base. We're trying to get in there. I go on the warden. He pops metal skin. I can't kill him. I try to back up. I'm getting like literally perma-stunned. I still live somehow. But this whole time we're so hurt, and we're just kind of sticking around because we have McGinnis with a bunch of healing. So McGinnis with the healing station that's coming up soon, and if you guys have seen my McGinnis video, you know that this hero just does a ton of healing. And so we're just kind of sitting there, and like honestly, the enemy team is getting their damage stats padded so hard because we're getting so much healing. And unfortunately, we do end up losing a ton of people here and overextending. So I think we were just getting a little overconfident because of the heal, and then we just all ended up dying, which is a funny but like really bad mistake, obviously. Like when you're ahead, like you don't need to like overstay. Like we were ahead 20k before anyone died, and we just like decided to stay for some reason, when in reality the entire map was available to farm. So we should have just been like, okay, we're up 20k, we got the guardians, we got part of what we came for, let's just go do something else, go farm the entire map and get a lead further and take a fight if they go outside their base. So I want to talk a little bit about how to approach late game fights as Lash. So it's 30 minutes into the game almost, so it's getting pretty late. And Lash is really good at punishing people that are out of position and getting in and out of fights, as you'll see here. So here the Paradox charges up her shot. I know she's looking for a swap, so I hide for a sec, and as soon as she goes for it, then I'm able to just jump on her right away and punish her. She does escape with Divine Barrier, and then they're using a lot of stuff on me, and I've kind of overcommitted. So I try to put myself in a position where I can just hide while I'm getting stunned. Now the Mirage sees me, and so I'm like, oh, okay, I have to fight this guy. Luckily, this Mirage is kind of weak in terms of net worth right now, and so I'm definitely able to fight him. But as you can see, I didn't like full commit to the fight right away. Kind of go to a place that's a little bit off to the side, and then I can regen. Lash has a ton of sustain with Flog, so once you use Flog, you can just kind of like stay in and out of the fight a little bit and see if you can sustain with Flog. You can also sustain with Headhunter. And fun fact, the healing from Headhunter actually gets amplified by Healing Booster. So it actually heals you for 10% of your max health per headshot, which makes it so items like Colossus are even more value. So my next 60 to 100 item is actually Soul Rebirth. Lash is actually really good with Soul Rebirth because if you respawn with 50% health, if you hit a couple heroes with Flog, usually you're back to full health. So he has a very reliable way to get back to full health. So this fight here started off really awkward. I know you guys didn't see the start, but basically like my Shiv died instantly like in their back line. And so this is just kind of awkward for us. And here I'm just kind of like in the back line getting in and out of the fight. And I see the 7 is going on me. I ended up killing him anyway, so I do get 2 kills. And I'm perma-stunned here. And I still have a lot of my cooldowns, and I still have Soul Rebirth, so I feel like, hey, maybe I can still fight. This was a bit of a mistake by me. I shouldn't have tried to fight here. I should have just left. I popped Colossus, and you guys are going to see, like, I'm going to be able to just tank a ton of damage. Like, so I've got Colossus. I've got a ton of resist right now. They're chasing me, and I Flog, I heal for a ton. I'm buying so much time. And when they kill me once, then I'll get to just respawn again with Soul Rebirth. So as you'll see here, I'm just going to respawn. Sure, I start off being 1400 health. I Flog someone, I'm back to 1500. And I'm just, like, so hard to kill. That I wasted so much of their time, and now they can't really like get anything, right? Like they can't go do mid boss because we're going to respawn in time. And so this is kind of like one of the biggest strengths of this build is how much time you can buy. And here we're going to see they're going to try to do mid boss anyway, which was definitely a mistake by them. And like they're so hurt that we can just like get in there and just kill them instantly. And we should be able to get the mid boss here. I do get it. They probably should have parried and it would have been fine, but they did not, and therefore I did get the mid boss, and we're going to be fine. So many situations in which if you go a different Lash build, if you focus more on Majestic Leap or things like that, the item is not going to help you in those situations. This build really just, you're kind of a frontliner with this build. You're incredibly hard to kill. You do a pretty good amount of damage. Like you're not a ton of damage, but with Flog you still do a ton of damage, as you guys will see on the scoreboard. And this build is just like very, very potent at fighting constantly. Now the match is basically over at this point. We got a couple kills. We should be able to end the game. So just a couple things to round it off. If you guys want to see the full match for yourselves, I'll put a link to the match ID in the description below, so you guys can see the full thing. There's a lot of cuts in this video, so if you want to just see the full gameplay, I'll put a match ID in the description below. And the second thing is, if you got this far in the video, do know that I offered paid coaching. I don't really promote it too much because you know, I don't necessarily like, it's a service that I offer, but it's very early into the game. There's no rank system, etc. So I only really offer it for the people who, you know, really want it. But if you are interested in paid coaching, feel free to reach out to my business email. Put it in the description below. It's $30 an hour, and you know, if you're interested in that, reach out to me and we can figure something out. And I'm sure it'll be a good time. Just looking at the scoreboard real quick, not going to go too in depth into the scoreboard, but as you can see, I ended up doing 58,000 damage despite most of my items being green items. So as you can see, my green bar is like filled. I have Colossus, I have Armors, I have Soul Rebirth, etc. And even then I still did 58,000 damage. And if you look at the damage dealt by type, you can see that Flog was 10,000, and then gun damage overall was about 20,000, despite not investing that much into the gun damage. And Improved Burst, 7,000, Ground Strike, 6,000, etc. So this is pretty much exactly hybrid in terms of damage. I would say 50% of my damage is Spirit, 50% is gun, roughly. All right, well, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions about Lash or just this game in general, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. I hope you guys have a good day.